I am Ling Xuan, the eldest disciple personally trained by Sha Bai Fairy, the venerable elder of the Ling Xiao sect, one of the 5 great sects. Born into a wealthy family, I was hailed as a prodigy in cultivation from childhood. At just 8, I was identified with a fiery elemental single spirit root, earning me Sha Bai Fairy's exceptional disciple acceptance. By 25, I had already attained the pinnacle of golden core cultivation. Such an astonishing ascent would have sent ripples through the entire cultivation world. Eager to attain greater power and ascend to higher realms, I formally requested my master and the head of the Moken sect to grant me a period of seclusion for cultivation. I had assumed it would take merely a few decades to transcend the primordial infant stage. But to my astonishment, this retreat would span a full 50 years. In the final stage of my seclusion, the last thunderbolt descended from the 9th heaven. A purple lightning pillar, carrying the power to destroy the heavens and earth, struck me with a thunderous roar. Just as I thought I would endure excruciating pain, my inner spiritual energy suddenly surged and a dazzling golden light radiated from my body. My body, once scarred by the lightning, healed instantly. A mighty force flowed forth like an endless river. Surprisingly, I skipped the primordial infant stage and was instantly promoted to a Huashan level cultivator. At this pace I shall surely attain the aspiration of ascension within 2 centuries. Yet this euphoria was short-lived. Suddenly, a foreign memory surged into my mind like a tidal wave, shattering all my cherished hopes. It turned out I was trapped in a world of regret essays, and I was the tragic protagonist, the eldest disciple. In my memories, when I returned from seclusion, the sect had changed beyond recognition. During my 10-year retreat, my master took on a new disciple at the foundation stage. Zhao Chen, though his abilities were unremarkable, he unexpectedly stole the attention of my master, my fiancé, Su Qingyao, and my lifelong shadow, my junior sister Shen Luoyan. What was even more absurd was that Zhao Chen soon accused me of stealing his sacred herbs. Not only did my master, Su Qingyao, and Shen Luoyan refuse to believe it, but they even gathered all the sect's disciples to try me. In my memory, I was so foolish as to self-destruct all my cultivation to prove my innocence, only to end up being ostracized and met a tragic death. A sneer curled at my lips, my eyes blazing with contempt. As a Huashan-level cultivator, how could I covet the spiritual herb of a junior disciple? Normally, Zhao Chen would have fawned over me with the herb, but I'd toss it aside without a second glance. I'd personally shatter that so-called regret narrative of fate. Concentrating my mind, I rode my sword swiftly toward the Ling Xiao sect. As soon as I entered the sect's territory, I spotted a familiar figure beneath a towering tree on the hillside: wild geese. I landed and called out to the girl in confusion. Shen Luoyan abruptly turned around. When she saw me, her face lit up with delight as she dashed toward me. "Big brother, you are back." As her junior disciple, she had been under my tutelage since childhood, becoming inseparable from me. Born into a wealthy family and the only child, I had never learned to care for others and paid little attention to her presence. Yet, as fellow disciples, I would always give her the rare herbs, weapons, and spirit stones I didn't use after training. Thanks to these resources, she had already attained the mid-stage of the foundation stage by the time I began my seclusion. "Yes, it has been 50 years. I replied with a smile. Over 50 years had passed, and Shen Luoyan had shed her youthful innocence, growing far more mature. I could distinctly sense the faint surge of golden core power within her, likely from her recent attainment of the core formation stage. Recalling how she had tearfully clung to me when I told her to retreat into seclusion, a wave of nostalgia welled up in my heart. "Big brother, during your 50 years of seclusion, I haven't stopped thinking of you for a single day," Shen Luoyan said emotionally, reaching out to embrace me. I instinctively took a step back to avoid her touch. As the saying goes, men and women should not touch. And given that I already have a fiancée, even if she were my junior sister, maintaining a proper distance was only right. Shen Luoyan's eyes dimmed at the sight of my resistance, her voice tinged with grievance and disappointment. "Elder brother, why did you reject me again, sister?" Just as I was puzzled, a boy's voice came from the distance. I followed the sound and saw a young man in his sex robes running toward me. When I recognized his face, my heart skipped a beat. Wasn't this Zhao Chen, the junior disciple who had taken my place in my memory? "Senior sister Luoyan, who is this person?" Zhao Chen rushed over, his gaze fixed on me with a hint of confusion. Shen Luoyan quickly composed herself and introduced with a smile. "Xiao Chen. He is Ling Xuan, the brilliant senior disciple of our Ling Xiao sect that I've been mentioning to you." Then she turned to me. "Senior brother, he is Zhao Chen, the new disciple our master took after your 10-year retreat. He is our junior brother." Before Shen Luoyan introduced him, I had already recognized him from that vague memory, yet out of politeness I still extended my hand. Hello. Junior brother Zhao Chen, I am Ling Xuan, senior brother Ling Xuan. Zhao Chen's face lit up with an exaggerated grin as he suddenly froze in surprise. So you are the eldest brother, the masters always mention you. He clutched my hand tightly. His enthusiasm appeared sincere, yet I failed to miss the fleeting trace of malice in his eyes. Born into wealth, my father had multiple concubines, and those women, in their competition for his favor, wore eyes that were both hypocritical and calculating. I pretended not to notice, waiting quietly for his next move. As expected from an angle unseen by Shen Luoyan, Zhao Chen suddenly tilted his body and collapsed backward, landing heavily on the ground. My face was full of shock. The next moment he forced back a few tears, his voice trembling with sorrow as he cried out, "Big brother, I know you don't like me, the new junior brother, but you can't just push me away." Seeing this, Shen Luoyan rushed to his side in panic, helped him up and asked anxiously, "Xiao Chen, what happened to you?" Then she suddenly turned to glare at me, her voice brimming with anger. "Big brother, how could you push Xiao Chen?" I was utterly baffled. Such baseless framing, something even my father's concubines would never resort to, was now being leveled against a cultivator. "Big brother, you are going too far." Shen Luoyan continued to defend him. "Xiao Chen was the disciple the master brought back, because he missed you day and night. You should be grateful to him for staying by the master's side during those difficult times." I dismissed Shen Luoyan's half-baked arguments, my gaze fixed on Zhao Chen. "Junior brother Zhao Chen," I asked calmly, "what stage of cultivation have you reached?" Zhao Chen didn't expect me to ask suddenly. His eyes flickered with a hint of timidity as he said, "Senior brother, I am at the foundation stage." The foundation building phase identical to the memory. It appears that this unfamiliar recollection did not arise out of thin air. I was indeed the protagonist of the so-called regret essay, yet, I held back my anger, instead, pressing with earnest concern. "Let's set aside the question of whether I pushed you, as a cultivator, to collapse so easily. This foundation stage cultivation is hardly living up to its name." When I laid it all out in public, Zhao Chen's face flushed crimson instantly. He turned away in anguish, his eyes bloodshot as if he'd been wronged beyond measure. "Big brother, how dare you say such hurtful things?" Shen Luoyan immediately shielded Zhao Chen, glaring at me. "You were the one who knocked Xiao Chen down. Not only do you deny it, but you are even slapping him in the face." "Shut up, Shen Luoyan." This time I cut her off with a cold tone. This was the first time I'd spoken to her with such cold indifference. Shen Luoyan froze instantly, her eyes filled with disbelief. I stared at her intently and asked, word by word, "I am asking you this, only once," Zhao Chen said. "I knocked him down. Do you think it is true?" Shen Luoyan was startled by my gaze. She opened her mouth, as if about to say something, but swallowed it back. Just then, Zhao Chen suddenly lowered his head, and said with a faint air of magnanimity, "Senior sister Luoyan, let's not make a scene over me. I am fine, just a little fall." What a pitifully delicate white lotus. Her acting skills outshine even my fifth aunt's, but alas, even my father disdains such artistry. Shen Luoyan, however, was no pushover. She snapped around, her eyes blazing at me. "Big brother, since you knocked Xiao down, you should apologize. Otherwise, I'll truly look down on you." I sneered to myself. She had already missed the last chance I gave her. "Very well, I understand," I said coldly, my gaze fixed on the two men. "If you are convinced I was the one who knocked Zhao Chen down, then let me show you the consequences of my actions." Before Zhao Chen and Shen Luoyan could react, I darted forward, instantly positioned before him, channeled my spiritual energy, and delivered a crushing palm strike. "Ah! Ah!" A piercing scream echoed as Zhao Chen's body was hurled like a kite with its string snapped, slamming into a massive tree trunk dozens of meters away, and spewing a mouthful of blood. "Xiao Chen!" Shen Luoyan's face turned deathly pale with terror. Panicked, she rushed to Zhao Chen and pulled out a wound-healing pill from her storage bag, stuffing it into his mouth. I strode forward with a leisurely gait, staring at Zhao Chen's lifeless form. My voice was icy. "See, this is the real force I use to push people. Your fake fall. That is just child's play." Then I turned to Shen Luoyan, his face deathly pale and body trembling slightly, and sneered, "Of course, there are plenty of fools who can't see through it." Senior brother Zhao Chen stared at me, his eyes filled with terror. He had never imagined that this legendary genius senior brother could be so ruthless. In his mind, ever since being taken as a disciple by Fairy Shabi, the entire sect had showered him with endless favor, and no one had ever dared to treat him this way. "How could you treat Xiao Chen like this?" Shen Luoyan, snapped back to reality, still stubbornly questioning Zhao Chen. Shut up. My gaze turned cold as I cut her off. Shen Luoyan, with such blatant slander, are you genuinely blind to it? Or are you deliberately feigning ignorance? When I asked about Shen Luoyan, she froze, her eyes flickering as she turned away with a hint of guilt. It is truly regrettable, I said, shaking my head with a hint of disappointment. I had hoped these 50 years would help you mature and see through the right and wrong, but it seems I overestimated you. How could you? How could you say you were disappointed in me? Shen Luoyan suddenly lifted her head, her eyes blazing with defiance and fury as a surge of intense energy erupted from her body. I was taken aback that this remark would deal such a heavy blow to her. In my memory, she often expressed disappointment in Zhao Chen's words toward me, yet now, in this reciprocal gesture, she could not bear it. Big brother, Shen Luoyan, suddenly drew the long sword from her waist. The ice blade I had given her before my retreat, the blade glowed with a chilling coldness as she gripped it, her eyes blazing at me with unwavering determination. Bang! Just as she was about to approach me, I raised my hand and slapped her hard on the face. The crisp sound of a palm strike echoed through the forest. Shen Luoyan was sent flying, tracing an arc in the air before landing with a thud, tumbling several times before finally stopping. As a Huashan-level cultivator, I had used only half my strength, yet her injuries were severe. Her cheek instantly swollen like a ripe fruit, blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. Sister. Zhao Chen tried to wriggle out of bed to save Shen Luoyan, but his internal organs had been crushed by my palm strike earlier, leaving him paralyzed. All he could do was watch helplessly. I ignored Zhao Chen and walked slowly toward Shen Luoyan, who had fallen to the ground. My voice was icy. If you dare to draw your sword against me for a lie, don't blame me for not holding grudges. Shen Luoyan struggled to rise from the ground, her eyes blazing with venomous fury as she ignored the pain with a shrill voice. She demanded, "Why? You were the one who rejected me first. 50 years ago, you ignored my pleas and stubbornly retreated to practice. Now, 50 years later, you've turned me away again. What right do you have to treat me like this?" "I never gave you any orders," I said calmly, "but from today, you are no longer my junior. Get out of here." "What?" Shen Luoyan was struck by shock, frozen in place. Her face was etched with disbelief, her wounds numb with shock, leaving only the stunned silence and a profound sense of despair. I didn't even glance at her and Zhao Chen again, turning to head back to my former home. To be honest, I've always been indifferent to romantic matters. Whether it is family or spiritual mentors, nothing compares to my pursuit of cultivation and advancement. Born into a prestigious lineage, my family's wealth has filled all my emotional voids. As a gifted cultivator, I've channeled every ounce of my energy into spiritual growth since childhood. I know full well that true power lies in self. Strengthening only through such strength can I command what I desire and uphold my family's dignity. The entanglements of love and romance have never been my concern. Shen Luoyan's infatuation with Zhao Chen likely stemmed from her prolonged role as a junior disciple, yearning for recognition and care, and need Zhao Chen perfectly fulfilled. Yet these matters are now irrelevant to me. As I approached the former residence, the sight before me made me frown slightly. This house, built with my own funds after I became the eldest disciple of my master, was the finest plot of land granted by the Ink Dust sect's leader. I had constructed it solely to find a tranquil place for cultivation, yet now, it was occupied by Zhao Chen. The mere thought of my possessions being taken without cause filled me with revulsion. I had no intention of confronting my master or the head of the Mokan sect. The matter could be settled through the most straightforward means. With a swift motion of his hand, his spiritual energy coalesced into a colossal fire dragon that descended from the heavens, charging straight toward the house. Bang! The flames engulfed the entire house in an instant, and the fierce blaze with its thunderous roar soon caught the attention of the other disciples in the sect. What is going on? Where is the fire? Look, isn't that the house where junior brother Zhao Chen lives? No, that house originally belonged to senior brother Ling Xuan. After he entered seclusion, Elder Shabi unilaterally assigned it to junior brother Zhao Chen. Senior brother Ling Xuan, he has left the temple. The disciples gathered around me, their faces filled with astonishment as they saw me standing by the flame. Several of the older disciples, whom I had known before my seclusion, had not been seen for 50 years. Their cultivation had made little progress, yet their appearances remained unchanged. At that very moment a furious figure strode forward, my fiancée, Su Qingyao. She was beautiful and slender, yet her face was now filled with rage, devoid of any joy at their long-awaited reunion. Ling Xuan, you've been acting so recklessly ever since you came back. Su Qingyao confronted me, her voice sharp. How dare you set fire to Xiao Chen's house? That is my house, Su Qingyao, I corrected coldly. This land was granted by the leader of the Moken sect, and I paid for the entire construction myself. The contract is still in the leader's possession. How could my house suddenly become someone else's? The flames crackled violently as Su Qingyao stared at the burning house, her mouth agape for a long moment, unable to utter a word. After a long while, she finally argued her way out. Even if it is your house, you can explain it properly, why just burn it down? 5 decades have passed and you've grown so unreasonable, I frowned. This was my property, you took it without asking and let outsiders move in. Now I feel nothing but disgust. If I burn it, who will I report to? Ling Xuan, how dare you speak to me like this? Su Qingyao's expression twisted slightly. She was used to my former gentleness and never imagined I would rebut her so directly. She took a deep breath trying to compose herself, then said, never mind, I won't dwell on the house matter. But I heard you seriously injured Luo Yan and Xiao Chen. Ling Xuan, how could you be so cruel? They're your junior brothers and sisters. Excessive. A sneer flickered across my lips. Zhao Chen slandering me for pushing him after I left the palace, Shen Luoyan demanding my apology without due process. I merely wanted them to see the consequences of my actions. What is your grievance, my fiancé? The moment these words were spoken, the disciples around them all wore awkward expressions. Everyone in the Quanzong sect knew Su Qingyao was my fiancé, yet now she was publicly questioning her own fiancé over another disciple. A move that was simply unacceptable. Su Qingyao's face alternated between pallor and flushed, her eyes flickering with unsteady light, yet she remained defiant. What? What right do you have to judge me? You secluded yourself for 50 years without permission. Do you know who stood by me all this time? It was Xiao Chen. If not for him, I would have broken down long ago in your solitary confinement. I was utterly amused by her logic, how she could speak with such conviction as if openly betraying someone were something to boast about. When I first decided to retreat into seclusion, Su Qingyao showed clear reluctance. I had hoped she would wait for my return, for me to grow stronger, and then we could become sworn companions, working together to bring glory to our sect and family. But to my utter surprise, while I was undergoing rigorous training and enduring the trials of heavenly lightning, my fiancé was already mingling with other disciples within the sect. Su Qingyao was born into an ordinary family. Had it not been for her engagement to me, the Ling family would have continued to support the Su family by providing cultivation resources, making it impossible for the Su family to attain its current status. In a sense, the Ling family could be considered the benefactors of the Su family, but how could they repay such kindness? Su Qingyao, I merely went into seclusion, not that I died, I said coldly. We cultivators have long lifespans, 50 years is but a fleeting moment to us. I am diligently practicing for our future, while you are here complaining about loneliness and seeking comfort with another man. Is this what you call the Taoist heart? Since you can't stand being single, we don't need to keep our engagement going. What? Su Qingyao recoiled in shock, clutching her ears in disbelief. You are breaking off our engagement over some petty matter, trivial matter? I raised an eyebrow. If you were in seclusion cultivating, and I had found another woman outside, telling you I just couldn't bear the loneliness, would you still consider it a trivial matter? You dare do such a despicable thing. Su Qingyao was instantly consumed by rage, her voice rising sharply as she berated him. The surrounding disciples all wore embarrassed expressions. Indeed, when a future spouse dedicates themselves to spiritual cultivation for a shared future, yet one betrays the marital vow, such betrayal is unforgivable in any circumstance. I didn't bother with her anymore. I unfastened the jade pendant from my waist and tossed it over. This is the engagement pendant. Take this one, and return the other one you are wearing. This jade pendant was bestowed upon me by the leader of the Inkdust sect when we pledged our marriage to Su Qingyao, symbolizing a perfect match. I always wore it close to my heart, even shielding it with my spiritual energy during my seclusion, to endure the heavenly thunder. Yet now, it holds no meaning whatsoever. Su Qingyao caught the jade pendant, her face pale with shock and defiance. Ling Xuan, you actually want to break off the engagement. Are you jealous, or are you just envious of Xiao Chen? Jealousy, I frowned. My mind filled with absurdity. Your fiancé is a woman who has broken her vows. Why should I be jealous of someone who ruins a marriage? I can't fathom why Su Qingyao and Shen Luoyan both think I'd envy Zhao Chen. Those at the foundation stage level. People who resort to despicable tactics to gain sympathy. What is there to envy? I don't care, I refuse to break off the engagement. Su Qingyao shouted emotionally. Xiao Chen and I are innocent, I just see him as my younger brother. Is that so? I turned to the disciples gathered around and demanded, my fellow disciples, can Su Qingyao's round-the-clock companionship with Zhao Chen really be called brotherly affection? The disciples exchanged glances, all turning away without a single voice to respond. This was a lie so obvious to all who could see through it that no one dared to get involved. You all. Su Qingyao's face darkened further as she watched her disciples' reactions. Whether you agree or not, I will break off the engagement. I didn't bother arguing with her. I'll personally explain the situation to the head of the Moken sect and write to our family tonight, asking my father to formally terminate the marriage with the Su family. From now on, the Ling family will end all cooperation with the Su family. Whatever you and Zhao Chen decide. It is none of my business. After that, I turned around and prepared to leave. How could you keep this up forever? Su Qingyao suddenly burst into tears behind me. I am your fiancé, yet you've always treated me with cold indifference. Whatever I do, you act as if it doesn't matter, never giving me a second thought. Even if I am now close to Zhao Chen, it is all your fault. The moment he finished speaking, a wave of murderous intent suddenly surged from behind him. My mind was in turmoil. Turning my head, I saw Su Qingyao. Just like Shen Luoyan moments before drawing her long sword from her waist, her eyes burning with venom as she fixed me. Why? I no longer wish to argue with them, yet they insist on seeking their own demise. The former Su Qingyao was gentle, refined, and well-mannered, yet now, how did she become like this? Despite my lingering doubts, I acted without hesitation. Clenching my fist, I delivered a powerful punch to her abdomen just as Su Qingyao's long sword was about to strike me. Oh, a searing electric shock shot through Su Qingyao's body. She let out a gut-wrenching scream as her abdomen collapsed like a hammer blow. With yellow bile and dark red blood gushing from her mouth, her body like a kite with its strings snapped, drifted helplessly through the air before crashing to the ground. After several violent rolls, she collapsed limp, her breath faint as if it might cease at any moment. My disciples turned pale with terror. Their eyes filled with dread as they stared at my still smoldering fist. Su Qingyao, renowned for her stunning beauty and a devoted following within the sect, had no one to stand up for her at this moment, each fearing a fate as tragic as hers. I let out a soft sigh, my heart filled with helplessness. The once refined and graceful gentleman had been forcibly transformed by them into a violent individual. After settling Su Qingyao, I continued my journey to the main hall of the Mochen sect. Guided by the fragmented memories, I knew that besides Shen Luoyan and Su Qingyao, my master Sha Bixianzi must also be supporting Zhao Chen. Rather than arguing with her later, I decided to confront the sect leader directly to avoid unnecessary complications. In my memory, when I was falsely accused of stealing Zhao Chen's sacred herbs, my master attempted to summon all disciples of the sect to judge me. The leader of the Mochen sect rejected this absurd demand. Regrettably, my then-self was so fixated on proving my innocence that I chose to destroy my own cultivation, ultimately meeting a tragic end. Looking back now, it was utterly foolish. My commotion must have spread like wildfire through the sect. The moment I stepped outside the Mochen sect's main hall, the sentry disciple recognized me, bowed respectfully, and hurried inside to report. Long time no see. Ling Xuan, you finally returned. The leader of the Mochen sect promptly stepped forward. His appearance remained unchanged, the same dashing middle-aged gentleman he had always been. Back then, had it not been for Fairy Shabai's sudden proposal to take me as her disciple, the sect leader would have personally mentored me to preserve the bonds between senior and junior brothers and sisters. The head of the Ink Dust sect wore a contented smile as he was about to reminisce with me, but I cut straight to the chase. Master, do you still have the land deed I entrusted to you earlier? Of course I'll keep it, said Mo Chen, the sect leader, his expression shifting from shock to remorse. Ah, you mean your house? I am sorry, Ling Xuan. Elder Shabi and her group had arranged for Zhao Chen to live there. I tried my best to dissuade them. But Elder Shabai insisted on giving Zhao Chen the best place, even threatening to burn the house down if I objected. I was utterly helpless. Nothing, Master Moken, I cut him off, my voice calm. I've already burned that house. What, you burned it down? Mo Chen, the sect leader, stared in shock, his eyes wide open. You invested so much effort and money into building that house years ago. How could you just burn it? My house is mine, and I have my own way of handling it, I said indifferently. But my master, his apprentice, and my fiancé took my house without my permission and let outsiders live there. This has already angered me. I didn't confront them, which is already a mercy. The leader of the Mochen sect stared at me, his eyes wide with astonishment. He couldn't believe that 50 years of seclusion had not only boosted my cultivation to new heights but also transformed my character into such a resolute and ruthless one. Just then, a furious female voice erupted from outside the hall, its tone carrying the commanding aura of a Huashan-level cultivator. "Ling Xuan, you traitor!" The figure of Fairy Shabby appeared in a blue robe, flying toward them with a fierce glare, her aura radiating the power of a deity-level cultivator. This was the standard intimidation tactic used by higher-ranking cultivators against their subordinates. Designed to subjugate them, alas, I am no longer the golden core cultivator who once needed to look up to her 50 years ago. Now, I too unleashed my divine transformation aura to counter her overwhelming presence, causing the main hall of the Mochen sect's main temple to tremble slightly under the clash of these two forces. "What, you actually?" The sand fairy's face turned pale at the mere mention of my breath, her expression betraying utter disbelief. 50 years. And you've actually attained the Huashan divine transformation stage. I looked at the master I hadn't seen in 50 years, a mocking smile playing on my lips. "Master, after 50 years apart, you are already imposing such authority upon me. Those unaware might think I am some unrepentant villain. You are being impudent." The Fairy Shabby was taken aback by my words, her expression growing even more displeased. In her memory, I had always been a disciple who obeyed her commands without question and showed utmost respect. "Your timing is perfect," I said with a calm expression, my gaze fixed on him. "Master, you took my land without my permission and let Zhao Chen live in my house. By the sect's rules I could have sued you at Thunder Hall, but since you are my master, I won't make things difficult for you. I'll just charge you a small rent. I've done the math. After your 10-year retreat, you took Zhao Chen in and let him live in my house for 40 years, since the house had deteriorated during that time, and I'd already taken away the valuables before your retreat. I'll only cover the house costs." I spread my hands and said with a broad smile, "Master, you only need to compensate me with 10,000 spirit stones. That is a pretty good deal for you, right? Damn you, do you even know what you are talking about?" Fairy Shabby trembled with rage, her hair standing on end. "How dare you ask me to pay your rent? This is sheer treason. Master, even as a master and disciple, shouldn't you receive fair compensation for using your disciple's belongings?" I maintained my usual tone, still smiling. "If you are unwilling to pay, that is perfectly fine. I'll visit the nearby town later. If rumors spread about the Lingxiao sect elder favoring new disciples and seizing the senior disciple's property, it could damage your reputation and that of your junior brother Zhao Chen. You are threatening me as your master." The sand fairy glared at me, her aura surging violently as she tried to overpower me with her aura, but I stood my ground, unleashing an aura of equal intensity to counter her. The tables and chairs in the main hall of the Mochen sect were completely overturned. "Stop acting on impulse." Mo Chen, the sect leader, rushed over to dissuade her, his voice tinged with resignation as he addressed Shabiai, the fairy, Elder Shabiai. "I warned you repeatedly not to seize Ling Xuan's house. Yet you refuse to listen. Now that Ling Xuan merely demands rent, you must pay him. That is my order." The Fairy Sabi exchanged glances with the leader of the Mochen sect, then with me, her face alternating between pale and flushed. Now that I had attained the Huashan stage, my power was on par with hers. With the leader clearly siding with me, she stood no chance of gaining any advantage in a real fight. "Ling Xuan, your 50-year seclusion has greatly enhanced your cultivation. This was a blessing, yet your mind has turned so greedily toward wealth. I, your master, am deeply disappointed." Unable to overpower me with force, Shabi Xianzi resorted to emotional manipulation to force me into submission. My smile remained unchanged. "Master, it is just mutual. I never expected that after 10 years of seclusion, you'd directly gift my dwelling to someone else. Thus, I am utterly disappointed in you, wicked son." Shabixianzi the demoness roared in fury, her teeth clenched. "If you are truly dissatisfied, then sever this master-disciple bond," I declared in a calm tone, yet my words carried the weight of a bomb. "After all these years, you never taught me with genuine dedication. My cultivation was built through my own painstaking efforts, and even the rudimentary techniques of cultivation were secretly imparted by the master of the Mochen sect. When you sent me away from him, it wasn't out of true desire to guide me, but rather fear that I might surpass you in the future." This remark struck a nerve with Fairy Shabi, and her face instantly turned ashen. "Master, if you don't want this to escalate and damage your reputation and that of your junior brother Zhao Chen, just hand over this spirit stone right now." I cut her off and urged, "I've already been generous enough. Anyone else wouldn't be so easy to talk to." The Fairy Sabi gazed at me, her eyes lingering on the ink-dusted sect leader nodding repeatedly nearby. She knew she had no other choice, clenching her fists, her chest heaving with rage. She finally pulled out 10,000 spirit stones from her storage pouch and hurled them at me with a thunderous thud. I bent down to pick up the spirit stone, a sneer curling at my lips. Looking back, over these 40 years, Fairy Shabai had bestowed countless rare resources upon Zhao Chen. Yet as my chief disciple, I was only granted 20 low-grade spirit stones at the beginning of my apprenticeship. Such favoritism, Zhao Chen had to toil for 40 years to reach the Foundation establishment realm, which clearly showed his poor judgment, yet he still favored such mediocre talents. After obtaining the spirit stone, I immediately had someone rebuild the house. In my memory, when I first tried to reclaim it, I was accused of being petty and lacking empathy by Fairy Shabi, Su Qingyao, and Shen Luoyan. Despite being berated, the house was still forcibly taken. Now, however, I've severely injured Zhao Chen, Shen Luoyan, and Su Qingyao, and those idle gossiping naturally vanished. As expected when debating with unreasonable individuals, only their own methods can be resolved. Once the iron fist is unleashed, the weight of words becomes evident. The new house was swiftly completed, and I continued my solitary practice behind closed doors. Had it not been for the Mo Chen sect master's intervention during that confrontation with Fairy Shabi, my authority would have been significantly diminished. This experience made me acutely aware that only by becoming truly formidable could one maintain an unassailable advantage and resist any form of oppression. Since I had severely reprimanded Shen Luoyan and others upon my initial departure from the sect, no one dared to provoke me during my cultivation period, and life was peaceful. However, I knew this was only temporary. The main event in my memory, being falsely accused of stealing Zhao Chen's spiritual herbs, would soon unfold. As expected, shortly after I went to the sect supply office to collect the rare cultivation resources I had ordered, Shen Luoyan and Su Qingyao blocked my path. Shen Luoyan's eyes still glowed with defiance and fury. The moment he saw me, he rushed forward to block my path. Big brother. I couldn't care less about her and sidestepped to avoid her. Big brother, hold on. Shen Luoyan's face flushed at the sight, and she instantly spread her arms like a wall, blocking my path and refusing to let me go. I am no longer your senior brother. If you need anything, you should ask someone else, I said coldly. Wait a minute, Ling Xuan. Su Qingyao rushed forward to stop me. I glanced at her and noticed the expensive ornaments had vanished, her face gaunt with exhaustion. After the Ling and Su families broke off their engagement, they not only cut off all financial support, but also terminated every collaboration. Seeing the situation turn against them, other clans afraid of offending the Ling family quickly distanced themselves from the Su clan, leaving them severely weakened. I heard the Su clan leader had summoned Su Qingyao home and given her a stern reprimand. Ling Xuan, what will you do to finally let me go? Su Qingyao's eyes welled up with tears, her voice trembling with pleading, her face etched with the deepest sorrow imaginable. You were the one who broke the engagement and started dating others. Now it is as if I am the one bullying you, I said coldly, without a hint of sympathy. If you truly love Zhao Chen, you could just cut ties with the Su family and run away with him. No one would stop you. No. I am completely innocent with Zhao Chen. Su Qingyao cried out, tears streaming down her face. Ling Xuan, please restore our marriage, otherwise my father will kill me. My heart remained completely still. To me, such tears were utterly hypocritical, that is all. Step back. I walked past her, but Shen Luoyan suddenly raised her voice and shouted, Senior brother Ling Xuan. Master has ordered you to stop immediately. Her voice was so loud that it caught the attention of many passing disciples. Seeing this, Shen Luoyan grew even more triumphant and shouted, We suspect you stole the sacred herb of our junior brother Zhao Chen. Master has ordered us to go to the main hall of the Moken sect immediately for trial. Hearing this, I froze in place, my breath catching for a few seconds as the peak energy of my Huashen stage burst forth without restraint. Rumbled the overwhelming force, like a mountain pressing down. Pinned Shen Luoyan, Su Qingyao, and the surrounding disciples who were watching the performance to the ground, rendering them immobile. Their faces flushed red, breathing labored, and their expressions were filled with agony. I lowered my gaze and said coldly, At the peak of the Huashen stage, why would you steal the spiritual herbs of a junior disciple, you fool? I ignored the people struggling on the ground and left the supply office. Though I hadn't visited the main hall of the Mo Chen sect, soon after, Fairy Shabi arrived at my residence with Zhao Chen, the sect leader, and the elder of the Thundershock Hall. Lin Xuan, you wretch, get out of here. Shabi Xianzi stood outside the door, shouting in a voice brimming with murderous intent. With measured composure, I stepped out of the house and surveyed the menacing group outside. My voice remained calm. Master, you've brought the Ink Dust sect's leader and Elder Lai Yan. What is your purpose? Shut your mouth, you filthy brat, Fairy Shabby snapped. Turning to Sect Master Mo Chen and Elder Lai Yan, Sect Master Mo Chen, Elder. It was Ling Xuan, that vile disciple, who stole Xiao Chen's sacred herbs. Such despicable acts must be punished severely. I demand that all sect disciples be summoned for a public trial. Standing beside Fairy Shabby, Zhao Chen shed tears at the right moment. His face etched with sorrow. Elder brother, I know you may not have meant it, but that sacred herb is absolutely vital to me. Please return it to me. His pretentious demeanor made my stomach churn. The head of the Ink Dust sect and Elder Lai Yan exchanged a glance, both showing signs of hesitation. Elder Lai Yan spoke first. Elder Shabai. Merely because you suspect Ling Xuan of stealing Zhao Chen's sacred herbs, you want to summon all sect disciples for trial. Isn't this overreacting? What suspicion? It is absolutely him who stole it. Fairy Shabby snarled, glaring furiously. Xiao Chen saw him enter my cultivation chamber with his own eyes. That sacred herb was left there. How could anyone else have taken it? I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Zhao Chen now lived in the place of Fairy Shabby with the sacred herbs stored there. It was clear he was the one stealing under the cover of duty. Yet he was the one shifting the blame. Master of the Ink Dust sect Elder Lai Yan, I believe we needn't consult Zhao Chen anymore. His words hold no weight. I cut off Shabby Xianzi with a direct remark. What nonsense are you spouting? Shabby Xianzi glared at him. I ignored her and asked instead, Master Mo Chen, what is your junior brother Zhao Chen's current cultivation level? Ah, it must be the foundation building phase, said Mo Chen, the sect leader, his face full of confusion as he couldn't fathom why I'd suddenly asked. In the next instant, I unleashed the overwhelming power of my peak Huashan stage, pinpointing Zhao Chen with absolute precision. Oh, Zhao Chen was utterly overwhelmed by the sudden onslaught of overwhelming pressure, his body pinned to the ground. The crushing force on his internal organs forced him to vomit several mouthfuls of blood. Ling Xuan, what do you intend to do? Seeing this, Fairy Shabai immediately channeled her spiritual energy and attacked me. With a swift wave of my hand, a powerful gust of energy surged from my palm. Sending the sand fairy flying, she stumbled several steps before steadying herself. This is, Fairy Shabby's face twisted in shock as she felt the power I had just unleashed. What kind of power is this? How could it be so powerful? While Fairy Shabby was stunned, the faces of Mo Chen sect's leader and Elder Lai Yan were filled with delight. The sect leader stepped forward with evident excitement, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. This is the pinnacle of the Huashan stage. Ling Xuan, you've actually reached the peak of the Huashan stage. At the peak of her divine transformation, Shabby Xianzi staggered back like a lightning strike, nearly collapsing, her eyes wide with disbelief. Indeed, ever since my last confrontation with Fairy Shabby, I've trained with even greater dedication. With my exceptional talent and the rare resources provided by my family and sect, I swiftly overcame my limitations and ascended to the pinnacle of the Huashan stage. You wretch! Fairy Shabby glared at me, her eyes blazing with jealousy and resentment. She had always feared being surpassed by younger generations, but now I had not only attained the Huashan stage but also reached the pinnacle of cultivation, far exceeding her. This realization drove her to lose all sense of reason. A surge of black energy erupted from her body, her face turning grotesquely terrifying as her eyes glinted with a bloodthirsty madness. She was possessed. Bad news, Elder Shabby has gone mad. The Mo Chen sect leader's face turned pale as he shouted, "Stop her immediately. A madwoman loses her mind and will slaughter indiscriminately, Ling Xuan. You beast! How dare you surpass me? How dare you?" Shabik Xianzi roared, unleashing a torrent of black energy that surged toward me. If I were the person I used to be, I might still have some reservations about her, but now, she is just a clown in my eyes. I drew my long sword from my waist, the tip pointed at Fairy Shabby, and turned to the leader of the Mo Chen sect. "Master, your disciple has fallen into demonic possession and harmed fellow disciples. According to our sect's rules, he shall be executed. I am willing to sacrifice my kin for the greater good and purge the sect. I humbly request your approval." Of course. The leader of the Mo Chen sect nodded immediately. Our sect's rule is anyone who becomes possessed, regardless of rank, shall be executed on the spot. With the master's permission, I moved without hesitation, my figure flickering into a fleeting silhouette that instantly darted before Shabai Fairy. At first Fairy Sabi could barely hold her ground against me, but her cultivation was merely at the early stage of the Huashan divine transformation phase, a far cry from my own peak level. Seizing her technique's weakness, I delivered a powerful kick to her abdomen. Ah, the fairy Shabby let out a piercing scream as her body was hurled backward, sending the black energy flow into disarray. Ling Xuan, you vile wretch, I shall kill you. She unleashed a frenzied black energy stream, intent on annihilating me in this final act. My gaze was icy and merciless. With a swift swing of my long sword, I unleashed a barrage of razor-sharp sword energy at her. The defenses of Fairy Sha Bai were instantly shattered, leaving her body riddled with wounds as the black aura around her gradually dissipated. In the end, I slashed her neck with a sword, and blood gushed out. The fairy Sabi opened her eyes wide, staring at me in disbelief. Her lips twitched as if to utter something, but she could no longer produce any sound. Her head rolled off her neck, and her body fell heavily to the ground, the black aura completely dissipating. After subduing the Sabi fairy, I turned to Zhao Chen, who was still pinned to the ground. I walked over step by step and stepped on his back. Zhao Chen spat out another mouthful of blood. His face ashen and eyes filled with terror. In a panic, he begged, "Elder brother, no, Lord Ling Xuan, I was wrong. I shouldn't have slandered you. That sacred herb wasn't stolen by you, it was my own carelessness that caused it to be lost. Please spare my life." I sneered with icy coldness. "Now you realize your mistake. What about earlier? Do you think my peak Huashan cultivation would care for those few spiritual herbs of yours? Number? Absolutely not." Zhao Chen shook his head violently, his body trembling uncontrollably like a sieve filled with chaff from sheer terror. "Big brother, let go of Xiao Chen." Just then Su Qingyao and Shen Luoyan rushed over. They saw Zhao Chen pinned underfoot and Sha Bixianzi lying lifeless on the ground. Though terrified, both women summoned their courage and shouted at me, "Ling Xuan, you are going too far, release him now." Su Qingyao chimed in. With a cold glance, I warned them sternly, "Enough noise, I've made it clear. We're done with this. If you dare speak again, don't expect me to be polite." Su Qingyao and Shen Luoyan recoiled in terror at my gaze, their faces etched with fear as they dared not utter another word. I turned to sect leader Mo Chen and Elder Lai Yan, speaking calmly. "Sect leader Mo Chen, Elder Lai Yan, the truth has come to light. Zhao Chen and Elder Shabi conspired to insult me. In accordance with our sect's rules, I humbly implore you to defend me and restore my honor." Elder Lai Yan nodded promptly with deep respect. "Disciple Ling Xuan, rest assured, even an elder commits grave offenses by insulting fellow disciples. Elder Sha Bai has already been exorcised and executed, and Zhao Chen's malicious insult to a deity-level elder is beyond redemption. We will handle this impartially and give you a satisfactory answer." Looking back, Elder Lai Yan never even gave me a proper glance after I abandoned my cultivation, yet now he treats me with such respect. Indeed, strength is the foundation of one's standing. The aftermath was straightforward. Shabi Shenzi, having harmed fellow disciples through demonic possession, was expelled from the sect with her remains barred from the ancestral tomb. Zhao Chen, who maliciously framed the elder, had all his cultivation nullified and was banished from Lingxiao sect. Before Zhao Chen was expelled, he still tried to seek mercy at my residence but was immediately driven away by the gatekeeper disciple. I fully understood the principle that to eliminate a weed, one must remove its roots. Retaining this person would lead to endless troubles. Therefore, I sent a letter back to the Ling family, instructing them to send someone to quietly deal with Zhao Chen after he left the sect. As for Su Qingyao and Shen Luoyan, their fates were equally tragic. With the Su family in decline, Su Qingyao persistently sought reconciliation with me. Yet my repeated rejections left her in vain. Meanwhile, Shen Luoyan, her status in the sect plummeted after the death of Shabi Xianzi, also sought an opportunity to reconcile, hoping to regain her position as a junior sister. The two women frequently encountered each other outside my residence. Due to the incident involving Zhao Chen, they had already harbored resentment towards each other, and their meetings were met with constant accusations and endless arguments. Secretly, I instructed the alchemists in the laboratory to covertly mix emotional stimulating herbs into the pigu pills they were collecting. Not long after, the two met again outside my residence. A brief disagreement escalated into a fierce battle between them. Su Qingyao, already weakened by her cultivation and consumed by anxiety, was ultimately killed by Shen Luoyan in a moment of recklessness. Shen Luoyan, convicted of intentional homicide, was imprisoned in the sect's main jail. Soon after, he went into a mental breakdown while in custody and eventually took his own life. After clearing all obstacles, I devoted myself entirely to cultivation. Years later, through the strong recommendation of the leader of the Mokan sect, I succeeded Shabi Xianzi as the youngest elder of the Lingxiao sect. I began taking on disciples and sharing my cultivation wisdom with talented younger practitioners. Time flies, and the span of 150 years has passed like a white horse passing through a crevice. During these 150 years I have devoted myself to spiritual cultivation without the slightest slack, and finally touched the threshold of ascension. On a dawn bathed in rosy clouds, I gathered all disciples and elders of the sect to bid them farewell with solemnity. Then, I soared into the sky, enveloped in golden radiance, piercing through the heavens and ascending toward the celestial realm. The shackles fate had woven around me, I had long broken free with my own hands. The path of cultivation is never defined by others, only true strength can shape one's destiny. I, Ling Xuan, have forged my own path to the heavens through sheer determination.